Hi, I'm Don Stanek, your Agile coach. In this segment of the listing presentation, we're going to dial in on market value and how we achieve high market value for your home as the seller when you're going to sell your property. In an earlier segment, we talked about the market, and the market was about supply and demand, and it had to do with a lot of factors that were outside of our control. Now, how value is established for this individual seller's house is something that we have a lot of control over if the seller is willing to participate with our method and our process to achieve high market value. This segment is all about having that conversation with your seller to prepare them to be able to do the things that they have to do in order to get high market value. At this point, we need to have a conversation with our seller about marketing 101. Scarcity of a product might create a bottom floor for pricing, but it doesn't necessarily drive pricing higher. Let me repeat that. Scarcity of a product or a limited supply of homes doesn't necessarily drive the price higher. Well, why is that? Because I firmly believe that the other side of the equation is the demand. You might have a lot of buyers who are sitting on the sidelines because they think valuation is too high. Now, you might have a lot of ready, able, and willing qualified buyers who just are not going to make a decision because they're being affected by overall market conditions, which is preventing them from even writing an offer. At some point, this means the market will shift and sellers might have to reduce their prices. But again, if there's a limited supply of homes on the market, do they really have to reduce their home price to sell the property? Well, yeah, they probably do in order to compete with other sellers, but you're not getting high valuation for your property, right? Because buyers actually determine the price of a home. Now, I know this is probably going to be an unpopular thing if you said this to your seller. Mr. Seller, I know you want $600,000 for your house or $900,000 or whatever the number is, but the truth of the matter is, in a free market situation, free market enterprise market, which what we have here, is really it's the buyers who are going to determine the price of your house. So if that's the truth, what's the goal? The goal is to attract as many buyers as possible. So the scarcity might give you a bottom on the pricing, but it's increased demand that's going to get you high valuation. Now, as an agent, you need to be 100% clear in your head of exactly what I just said. The scarcity of a product doesn't necessarily dictate the elevated price. The scarcity creates the bottom. Demand is going to create the higher market valuation. And how do we create demand? We create it through marketing and advertising. Advertising creates demand. And if you don't think this is true, flip on your television at night and take a look. Why are there so many ads on TV over and over and over again? Ad. Is it frustrating? It's annoying. Yeah, I get all that. But the reason they do it is because it works. If it didn't work, they wouldn't be spending money on a $2, $3, $4 million Super Bowl ad. It's effective and it works. The same thing with, I go to my mailbox and I have all this junk mail. Why do people still send out direct mail pieces? Is it because they're just happy about wasting their time? Absolutely not. They've determined some kind of matrix, some kind of arbitrage that says for every piece I put in the mailbox, every 3,000 or every 4,000 pieces I put out via direct mail, I get a certain response rate. X number of people go to my website and check me out as a result of that piece that I sent out there, or they may even call and set an appointment. It works. Advertising creates demand. You have to convey this as crystal clear as you possibly can to your seller, because this is what's going to determine the high market value for their house. It's not where they think they want to sell their home, because a scarcity, right? What it is how do we drive as many people to look at that house in the shortest period of time to drive that valuation up as high as we possibly can? Advertising creates demand. This is essential for a bunch of reasons, because in a later segment, we're going to talk about all the things that you have to do in order to market this house correctly to drive as many showings as you possibly can. The next thing that you need to do with your seller is walk them through the psychology and the psychological staging of buyers that are in your area. And this is, what is normal buyer behavior in this area? What are buyers' expectations in terms of being able to look at the house? When a buyer takes a look at an image that you've put on the internet, What is their reaction to it? What are they going to think? Is it going to compel them to call their agent and set an appointment and see your home? Are we driving behavior? Are we going to be driving buyer behavior? And what are the things that buyers are looking for in order for them to take the steps necessary to look at my house, the house that I have for sale? Now, you might be in a great position at this point because maybe you're taking a listing and you're finding a replacement property for your seller. If you are, you can call and recall to that seller who's now your buyer. Maybe you're showing them properties before you take the listing, and maybe this is one of the ways you compel this person to list their home is because they get them excited about the next property, right, next home. And so you can basically call back the experiences of, well, Jim, remember, you put your buyer's hat on, and when we went to go look at property ABC, and there wasn't a lockbox, or we opened up the lockbox and there was no key in it. And remember how difficult it was to even find that property because the folks didn't have a sign in the front, or the sign had fallen over. And so what you're doing is you're starting to establish some seeds. When it comes to having more buyers look at your home, what are some basic fundamental things that we need to settle? Well, accessibility of the house. This is key because you're going to run across sellers who don't want to have a lockbox on their house or a show by appointment. And is that convenient for buyers? No. Every time you put an obstacle in front of a buyer, it's going to reduce the number of buyers that are coming in and taking a look at your home. Well, I don't want a sign in my front yard. Same thing. I need to start establishing the fact that I have a process and a system and a method, and this is how we achieve high market value. Every time a seller takes one of these things away from the equation, I need to confront them about it and say, if we didn't put a lockbox on your property, which I don't recommend that, we should have a lockbox, but if we didn't, we're going to reduce the number of people that are going to look at your home, and the time frame for selling your house might go past your goal of closing by XYZ date. Or worse yet, people just won't look at it, and no showings. Jim, if we had fewer showings, do you think it'll affect the value of your house? If we had fewer showings, would it affect the value of your house? Jim, as your agent, I would never want to put you in a position where you're not going to be able to achieve high market value for your home. If we have fewer showings and less accessibility to your property, and we have a lot of restrictions on when we can show it and when we can't show it, it's going to reduce the number of people who are taking a look at your home. As an agent, I owe you a much higher level of service than that. I want to make sure you get the high possible market value. If you start putting conditions on how we can show the house and there's no lockbox, I don't even want it in the MLS, or I don't want my neighbors to know that I'm selling my home. Every time you do this, you're putting yourself at risk to have less money in your pocket when this process is done. You're putting yourself at risk. You are putting yourself at risk that you would put less money in your pocket when this process is done. As a real estate professional, you have to educate your seller, and this is the point at which you need to drive home the value of marketing and exposure and accessibility. And we can't light a candle and put it under a basket. We have to light up that light and tell the world, 123 Main Street is for sale, and it's an amazing property. You need to come by and take a look at it. Here's some amazing photographs, and all you have to do is call before showing, right? You don't even necessarily call 1 hour before showing. Put remarks in the syndicated remarks section, or in the agent private remarks section for showing instructions, and make this home as accessible as possible. Jim, doesn't it make sense that if we make it really, really easy for people to look at your home, then more people are going to look at your home? And here's where you're going to get these objections, but you need to keep tying it back into the fact that your process, your system, and your method is unbeatable. There's a lot of evidence to support the fact that I show a lot of showings in a short period of time is going to drive your price up as high as it possibly can. This is our method. This is what highly skilled professionals are doing in the market, and this is what I'm going to do for you in order for you to maximize the amount of money that you're putting in your pocket when this process is over. Don't gloss over this. Make sure that you have 100% buy-in to this concept, because when we start talking about our strategic marketing plan and all these things that we're going to do, we need that seller to be on board with their behavior in terms of what they're doing with regard to the time frame and our execution of the marketing plan.